All right, so today we're going to talk about the problem of the rising tuition for college. And so just to start off, what do you guys think is the main cause of the rising college tuition?
I'm of the opinion that college tuition has been rising so much because colleges have been forced to offer more to the students. A while, like long time ago, they didn't have all of these sort of clubs and like other like intramural activities that like Penn State offers now. So now that they do, they have to compensate by finding a way to pay for that.
Yeah, I think it's like I think college universities it's becoming a very competitive environment from what it used to be. So now all of these colleges are again like being forced to offer like all these amenities that really cost a lot of money for them, and in turn they raise the cost of their tuition to like keep their college like prevalent, I guess, in society. So here, let me.
Go ahead.
I had found information from two conflicting viewpoints about why it's rising. The one was under the impression that there's less funding from the state, and so the colleges have to make up for that by increasing tuition. But the other one was more of what you had said earlier about like the more amenities and whatnot, and also like paying for administrators. That professors' salaries aren't really increasing by a ton, but colleges are hiring more and more administrators which have higher salaries in general, and that was contributing to that.
Yeah, I know a lot of people think it's because of like the amenities, and that's like totally valid. Like I don't know if you guys have been down to like the new South Halls. Like I'm not sure if any of you have been in there, but they're so nice. Like all the airs, like all the rooms are air conditioned, and like just like everything about the rooms are like so nice and like modern now. So like those types of things like cost a lot of money and drive college tuition up. And then I forget who was saying, I think maybe Aubrey, she was saying how like it's so competitive. Like when people come to their school, they want to see like, oh, look at this rock wall we have, or look at this really nice gym that we have, or like this dining hall. So like all these schools are spending and spending and spending, but they need to get that money from somewhere, so the tuition keeps going up. And back to when you were saying like the state support for higher education has like decreased, I had a statistic on that. It was found that between the years of 1987 and 2012, the government support for higher education has decreased from $8,497,000 per student to $5,000 per student.
Mm-hmm.
So like students aren't getting like loans or scholarships that they need to be affording these rising costs.
Yeah, and it's insanely hard to get any financial aid.
Yeah.
With my situation, like we almost didn't even try because it's really hard to get anything, and when you do, like it's really not much at all.
Yeah.
And I feel like schools are really going from giving like financial aid and grants to their students, and they're going more towards giving loans rather.
Yeah. I also saw what Meredith was saying about the salaries of administrators. I read an article, I think it might have been the same one that you read because it kind of sounds similar. It was like 3 different professors in there.
Yeah, I read that too.
And he said that they're paying university presidents like their CEOs. So, administrators' salaries are kind of bloated, so they think that, I don't really know like the major statistics on like how much these people are making, but just the rising cost of paying every administrator in a school, especially a big school like this one with 40,000 kids coming in the fall, that drives tuition up too.
I read about, I don't know if this was within that article too, but I also read about how now colleges are so focused on giving off like a good presentation, like, oh, here's this and that, like sparkling fancy things. And the students, as much as that dazzles them, what they really want is to have a secure job coming out of college, and that's like really important to them, like employment rates, and like colleges aren't even really focusing much on that anymore, so it's just kind of like miscommunication, I guess, in a way. I don't know. That kind of, just a little comment. But.
Yeah, colleges are like turning into businesses in a way, like, you know, he likened administrators to like CEOs in terms of what they get paid, and so I think that's part of like the whole marketing thing you're talking about and
Yeah.
why it continues to increase.
I read a fact that says 27 cents out of every dollar spent on higher education is actually spent on instruction from professors. So like only 27 cents out of the 100 is spent on instruction. So the rest is not like what you're not spending on your education. It's all like the other stuff that comes along with it.
One of the other causes I actually found was the National Bureau of Economic Research of student aid says that student aid accounts for most of the rise of college tuition. So the basis behind that is that the more money that student borrows from banks and stuff, from those student loans, the more that the universities can charge tuition. So a lot of times when people are taking out those student loans, it's like you think it's helping you because you're getting that money, but sometimes it can actually hurt you because the colleges can raise their tuition costs if a lot of their students are just loaning money, which I thought was interesting. And I didn't really realize that, and I feel like a lot of kids are taking out loans, college loans, and they're not realizing that it could actually harm them in some way. So that was just one opinion. So
yeah, coming out of a finance course in high school, I learned that when colleges raise tuition rates like unexpectedly, it can negatively impact the students who borrowed money from like banks and stuff, because then they have to go and get another loan to cover the difference of what they missed. And when they go to get that second loan, almost always the interest rate for that one is higher. So it's bad for the college to unexpectedly raise tuition for me, because it causes like a lot of distress among their student body.
yeah.
I had read an article that talked about some of the differences between like public colleges versus private ones, and obviously the private ones have a lot more of like, they call them endowments, and a lot of people feel that like a private school is out of the question just based on the cost of tuition. But the article that I was reading said that they offer more scholarships
Private
for
schools?
academics. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I know a couple friends of mine who applied to some private schools like around my hometown, and they were getting like 50% off, and you know, when you compared it, it really wasn't cheaper than Penn State's tuition.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
certain private schools that can offer those big scholarships, it's really not changing. Like tuition is still high across the board.
I applied to Ithaca this past fall or whatever, and their tuition is like, their total cost of attendance is $55,000. $55,000, right? Yeah, I got that right. Okay. And I got a $17,000 scholarship, which you're like, wow, a $17,000 scholarship. But when you do it, it's literally the same exact price as going to Penn State, or even more expensive than going to Penn State. But they kind of lure you in, like, here's a $17,000 scholarship, but it's like you're still paying almost $40,000, and like, yeah. So
At one of the private schools, I got a $32,000 scholarship, and it was still like I have a discount here, but it was still 2 times the price of like attending here. So
yeah,
it does like,
it's ridiculous.
yeah, their prices are really insane.
One of the articles I read was talking about like Harvard and Yale and Columbia, and they were saying like it costs, you know, huge amounts of money to go there, but the chances are they've had family members who went there, and when you're graduating from those schools, you're pretty much paying for the degree. You're paying to have Harvard on your degree,
Yeah.
and you're going to have a job that is more likely to pay you more money. And so their tuition rates, they can kind of let them be that high, because people kind of
Just
go
use it
there
anyway.
expecting.
Yeah.
Well, also people who get into those schools, my best friend is going to Harvard because like, well, he did go to like a very good high school, but he has both his parents graduated from Harvard, his like grandparents graduated from Harvard, and he actually got a lot of tuition money, like they call it like legacy scholarships and stuff. So like when you have a legacy, it becomes much easier to pay for college tuition.
Something also that like came up a lot in my research is how it's also taking students longer to graduate nowadays,
Yes.
which is like increasing and racking up their debt even more. Like they have to take out more loans, because it was I think it said only 19% of people graduate from, I don't know specifically where that was, but graduate within 4 years, and then the rest graduate like 5 years or over. So that also like really adds to student loans when you're in school longer.
One of the articles I read talked about colleges being aware of rising tuition and not wanting to say that they like increase tuition, but what they do is they like slap a bunch of these fees on, and they're appealing because you want to have, the one thing was like free HIV testing. Like, that sounds great that they're caring about the health of the students, but it's just another fee. And it comes down to, I think, what kind of fees are you willing to pay? Like some of these that I read about were called, you don't even know what they really mean, like globalization fee. That one was for study abroad, and
What if you don't want to study abroad?
Exactly. A majority of students don't or can't take advantage of those opportunities, so they're still getting, charged almost for that. There's a parking and pedestrian fee, so you have to pay to use the sidewalks. Student success fee. I'm not making these up. Freshman counseling fee, student enhancement fees, and then the one that I thought was the most significant was special institutional fees, and it goes to the same place as your tuition. So like when you're reading over your bill, you think, it's something else, but really it's
all the same thing.
It's just a way for them to get their money without saying that they upped tuition.
Sorry.
It's okay.
So, obviously, like, there's a lot of people that would benefit from reducing the price of college tuition, but do you think there's anyone other than the universities that it would harm? Like, do you think, it's such a massive shift in the economy, too. Well, there's a lot of people who believe that, universities should be just, like, a public good, and then there's a lot of people who can afford college and have no problems with that and believe that you should just have to pay for it. So who do you think would be upset if we did go forward with like reducing cost of tuition?
I've always been of the opinion that it shouldn't be free. I think that's a waste because I think what's going to happen is, free college for everyone, well then you're going to have to pay to get your master's or your doctorate, or people going to med schools, things like that. And so it's really just going to turn it into like another level of high school almost. Like everyone can get their GED.
Yeah.
So I think the definite way to go at it is to reduce tuition so it's more affordable to maybe people who don't grow up with resources to pay for it. But I think making it free would almost devalue it.
Yeah. I think you have to think about like when you're reducing, you have to think about everyone who's kind of involved. So like the student is involved obviously because they're going to be paying, but also the family because a lot of times those family members are the ones paying. And then also like these colleges have to keep up with other institutions across the country so that they can distinguish themselves for future students. So like if everyone like drops their tuition, like I don't know, like I feel like the colleges are going to be, I don't know if there'll be like less amenities or anything like that, or like, but like if we drop tuition, like I don't know. I feel like the colleges might. I don't know if they'd suffer or if they would. I don't really know.
Yeah, because we also have to, while thinking about the students and their families, we also do have to think about the professors and the administrators. And while we were saying the administrators have very inflated salaries right now, they also still do need to be paid. So we have to find like a happy medium there. So should I?
Going off of what Alex said, how about like lowering tuition rates would probably produce less amenities.
Yeah.
There's also the competition factor. Like we're kind of basically talking about Penn State's raising their tuition and all, but like if only Penn State lowers their tuition, all of a sudden Penn State isn't competitive like nationally anymore.
So in a few years, just because those other schools would,
they wouldn't change, but Penn State would go down.
Exactly.
But the problem is that it would have to be a unified approach to lowering tuition, and in my opinion, I'd say that would have to come with government regulation, and that could open up like a lot of other problems like favoritism, and like eventually we would probably be seeing lobbyists for colleges. Like, I don't think we want to go down that road. So I did research something on the inflation of currency, the dollar, compared to the inflation rate of the tuition. And tuition is exponentially higher than how much the dollar has inflated over the past, 50 years or so. So I would say if we're going to go down the road of like having all of the colleges lower their tuition, it should be to the inflation, like to the natural inflation rate or the inflation rate of the dollar, because that would create the least amount of tension, because everybody, if we do this, is going to be fighting over like, oh, what should we set the new tuition as? But it should be the same rate of change as the dollar changes. So if the dollar depreciates in value, or you need like more currency to buy the same product, you should have the same percentage rate increase in tuition.
Alright, so you think one solution would be to match the college tuition like towards the dollar or something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, can you clarify?
Yeah,
I'm
can you
sorry.
clarify?
It's like match the percent rate of increase in tuition to the percent rate of increase in the dollar.
Okay.
So like as the
So
dollar
the inflation
becomes
of dollars, there would
more
be
inflated,
inflation of college tuition.
tuition becomes more inflated.
Okay. Alright. I think two of the most obvious solutions to the problem is, one, it's just a solution. It's not necessarily I agree with it, but one is just making college, or at least public universities, free for everybody. That is one solution to the tuition. It's a solution. And then the other one is just don't do anything. Like there's still a solution. Like there's still kids coming to college. I know the tuition costs are crazy even for
and there's still more and more
well-off
kids
family.
going to college.
Yeah,
like,
especially because a lot of kids now, a lot of families. I don't know about your family, but I have a sister and she goes to school, and now we're both in college, and my parents are paying for the both of us combined over like $60,000 a year for us to go to school, and I come from a pretty decent family where we can afford it, but that's not the same for everybody. So like just two basic ones are, one, just make it public universities free, and the other one's just do nothing about it.
Before we keep going, I just want to go over the solution criteria.
Okay.
We just want to make sure like it's obviously fair to like students and their families and the universities. You don't want to like deplete their resources completely, and just any employees, which is professors, administrators.
Yeah.
Combined. Is there anything else we think the solution should include?
I think it kind of nails everything.
Is there anything you had in mind?
Not specifically. I was just
I would say
throwing
the
out
only
idea.
thing I would add, because students is very general, because I feel like students have two lives. They're like academic life and then their social life. So if we wanna lower tuition at all, then also we have to take into account like the students' like extracurriculars.
Okay.
So
Okay.
Just maybe put like a parenthesis and just put like extracurriculars next to students.
okay.
Yeah. Because I think what you're trying to say is like for the, like you were talking about the club sports earlier,
Yeah.
like those sort of things. Like
we don't want
colleges
those
need
to
to
go
be able
away.
to afford that. Yeah.
Because those are very beneficial. Like,
Yeah, for
so,
everyone.
Yeah, because it's good to stay well-rounded, and especially jobs, employment after college still looks for stuff like this, so we don't want to get rid of that. So that's a really good point. So what you said about do nothing, is that like that's just what you meant, right? Just
Yeah, just do
leave
nothing.
it the way
Just
it
leave
is.
it the way it is.
Okay. Okay, so I actually read something kind of interesting.
I'm talking to the mic.
I read something kind of interesting for a solution. So it was let me find it here so I don't mess this up. But it was, so the students spend 1 year or 2 years in a classroom paying for tuition at a university learning, 1 year in an internship, and then 1 year studying abroad. So that way you're getting, that's just one solution that I kind of,
That'll reduce cost of tuition.
that will reduce cost of tuition by 40 to 50%.
Yeah, I read an article about just like specific ways that you can reduce it like by yourself, and one was like studying abroad and going to other countries actually reduces your college tuition. I actually have a friend who went to Florida State last year, and Florida State has a program that if you're out of state and you go and study abroad your first year as a freshman, so you wouldn't go to Florida State right away, but you would study abroad as a freshman, and then for the rest of your 3 years you pay in-state tuition at Florida State.
Okay.
So like that's just like one potential program that kind of piggybacks off of
They do that because
what you were saying, Aubrey.
too many people are like enrolling. Because I know Penn State had something similar where they offered
Yeah.
people to go like their first year at a different
Yeah,
campus.
the
campus.
branch campuses. Yeah.
But I think that's, I mean, that's a little, I think it's a little bit different. Because, like, for this, I was saying, like, if the school implements this program.
Yeah.
So
everyone would have to do it.
yeah.
Okay.
And, I mean, I think that's kind of cool. I know you only get 2 years in a classroom,
Yeah.
but there's so many gen eds that
Mhm.
I don't know, like, if they really compare to the actual experience of an internship or being abroad.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, I read something about converting 20% of general ed classes to being online, and from what it said, that would save $90 billion annually just from being able to take more general education classes online.
Yeah. Write that up there. Yeah.
The article
I think a lot of people would be willing to do that too,
Yeah.
just because look, we all have computers, and like even if you don't, there's a computer lab right next to us that people would be able to use and utilize. So definitely think that would work.
The article that we were referring to
Yeah.
earlier that we all had read, the one guy named Andrew Kelly, who's a senior fellow at the American Enterprise Institute, which is like a think tank, one of his ideas to make college more affordable was to make the university run as efficiently as possible. So you'd almost probably have someone come in and like think, okay, where is large amounts of money being wasted? Like for example, if going back to what I said earlier about like the free HIV test, if people aren't utilizing that, that's probably something that could be cut from the budget that people won't complain about. So I don't know if you call it like a business consultant or something to come in and
So like an expert.
yeah.
No, that's definitely a good idea.
Yeah.
My mother actually does like a very similar thing in the hotel industry. She goes in and she looks at inefficiencies in like budget distributions and stuff. So if we could have something similar here at like on campus, someone would walk around and like look like, oh, these people aren't really using these recording studios. Maybe we shouldn't have 5 of them.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
That would
That sort of thing.
that would save money and
That's
then in
definitely a
turn
thing, yeah.
lower
And
tuition.
also, as much as extracurriculars are important to students, I also think that we spend way too much money on some athletic programs.
Yeah.
Like,
That's a whole other
unnecessary.
thing, yeah.
I know,
Whole
but
other-
still, just like saying.
One of the things I found, but it's pretty basic, but just overall increase the number of like scholarship opportunities for students coming into schools. So, like I don't know if you guys did, but I didn't get any scholarship to come here. Did you guys?
No, I know that.
Yeah.
I mean, this is specific to engineering, and my brother,
Yeah.
he's going to be a senior this year, and he's in civil, and he didn't start getting money like from Penn State scholarship wise until he was a junior. And basically, we kind of assumed that it was because there's all those like pre-major, like they waited until he was like strongly in the major until
Yeah.
they wanted to give him money.
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, I see both ways. I see the university, they don't want to be pumping all this money into this engineering
Yeah.
student if they can't make the GPA requirements
Mhm.
or they, fail some of the required classes, things like that.
Another idea, this isn't about reducing cost of college tuition like at a university, but like for a student and an individual, we could, again, this would have to start later into their experience at the university, but we could further encourage jobs to target certain students that they're interested in to work for them after they leave the university, and have maybe like the employers of like big companies or something give some scholarship money to the kids in the universities if they say they'll work for them after college, maybe.
My brother was something sort of like that,
Yeah.
and it was actually him and his roommate both got them, and I'm unsure if it was a Penn State specific type of scholarship or if it was like it was like a company or an organization for civil engineers,
Yeah.
and I'm unsure if it was they were just giving it to Penn State students or it was just 2 Penn State students that had happened to win it.
Yeah.
But now my brother didn't have to say he's going to work there.
Yeah.
But it was kind of an outside organization that came in and said, oh, these guys, they're juniors and they're, in civil engineering, they're doing well, and
Because I know,
scholarship.
I do know someone who was, I think, like a junior at Penn State, and for example, the employer came in and said, okay, who's your best student in the supply chain management program right now? And they told him who it was, and they said, okay, we want to give him this many thousands of dollars every year, even if he doesn't want to work for us, but hopefully that will encourage him to come work for us. Because at universities like Penn State that are so well accredited for like engineering and nursing, the business school, I feel like employers would take a chance on that to try and convince the students to come.
I had one more solution.
So, yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, one of my solutions, it was kind of from that article. A guy named Dr. Lowell from the University of Wisconsin. He was the president from 1992 to 2004, and he said that maybe possibly releasing universities from state government operating requirements will help a lot in like tuition costs. So like stuff like their participation in state health insurance and like pension programs, that if they got released from those like state requirements, that the college tuition might actually go down. So that's just one solution.
So releasing
So
colleges.
releasing universities from state government operating requirements.
Okay.
I can say it again if you need.
Okay, that's okay. So, because I think I read a little bit about that
Yeah.
too.
We've got a ton of solutions.
Yeah, so maybe we should
maybe we should start narrowing them down. Yeah.
So we should look at them in terms of the criteria and see like what's a good fit or what is just not gonna work.
Yeah.
Wait, I'm sorry, Alex. State requirement.
Releasing universities from state government operating requirements. Yeah. It's just like health insurance and that sort of stuff.
Okay. So let's just see.
We can just go right down the line.
Yeah.
All right. So, match dollar inflation to tuition inflation. I think that might just be a little too like back and forth. Do you know what I'm saying? I feel like it might like fluctuate a lot, and I don't know, make tuition costs like a little varied all the time and like changing constantly. So I don't really know. I know you came up with it, Bueller. So
Well, it would be, any change is going to cause fluctuations in the short run, but it's about how well Penn State in particular, but also how well like the college scene nationally like responds to it. So like they would have to, it would be up to the colleges to figure out what then to let go of and then what to put more stress on.
Yeah.
Personally, I don't know enough about dollar inflation to really have like a solid input on this one.
Yeah,
It's
I'm
just
not completely sure
it's
either,
not
to be
my-
honest.
Yeah.
Alright, cool.
My thought was kind of related to what Alex was saying. I feel like it's something that's hard to predict. And again, I'm not an expert in economics or anything like that.
Yeah.
But I would be worried about families that are sending their kids to college and, it's very like almost scientifically worked out, like, oh, they have this much money to spend per year, like something along those lines where their budget's really tight. And I would just be worried that like a big unexpected fluctuation like that could really hurt them. They might not be able to finish, and then they'd be stuck with a mountain of debt, and they're still not getting that higher paying job because they don't have a degree.
The only thing that I could possibly prevent that, and maybe you could incorporate it into that solution. But there's things called tuition lock programs. So not every university has it, but
George Washington.
Yeah, there's some universities where they have this program where when you'll pay the same tuition that you had your freshman year all the way through, regardless of the tuition change yearly. So
not many universities.
Not many, yeah. So not a lot of them have it. So, but I'm just saying maybe if you kind of implemented that into that in some way, I don't know, but I don't know. That's
I'm fine with eliminating it too, because it wouldn't really be fair to the university, because to lower tuition at such a drastic rate, very suddenly, there would be a lot of cutting, and there would be a lot of people losing their job over it.
Yeah, and it would be hard for them to budget. Not only would families have trouble planning, but how can the university plan?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we should do nothing for now, because I feel like that's always
it's always
possibility.
Seems to be the best.
Well, because until we look at all of
we
everything
should probably just
we
talk
should-
about it a bit though, just
Okay.
just some of the pros and cons, you know what I'm saying? So a bad thing is that there is tuition is going up a lot, so a lot of families aren't able to afford it, but also a pros, I don't know, people are still going to college. It's not like the number of people going to it's not
college.
it's not like the amount of people going to college is decreasing. It's just that the cost of it is increasing. So that's really all I had. I'm not a fan of make public universities free.
Well, it's a thing in a lot of smaller countries.
Yeah.
But that's just because it's easier to control. It's easier to predict enrollment rates and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So it would work in smaller, slightly more progressive countries, but it really isn't fair to, obviously not fair to the universities, and it's actually not fair to the United States government, because they're going to be picking up a lot of the tab, as well as will be the families. And what really sucks about this is because it's reflected in your taxes, free universities. So if we make Penn State free, families who have no affiliation with Penn State are going to be paying it.
Yeah, and families that know that their kids, they can't afford to send their kids to college, or even families that the kids just don't want to go to college, they want to go to something else, they're paying for everyone else, and I don't know if that's fair, because if college is free, you're going to have people that are going to come that aren't going to take it seriously, that might be here for 7 years to get a 4-year degree, and then that's all that money taken away from families that have nothing to do with public universities.
So should we add the government to our solution criteria? Because I think we
I don't know how applicable it is to a lot of these other ones.
Yeah.
It is very applicable to 8.
That's pretty much it.
Maybe if the expert is from the government.
If it's applicable to some of them, maybe we should just add it.
Yeah,
And then are we nexting this one?
Yeah, I
Yes.
think we should X that one. Yeah.
Okay. So having students complete 2 years at an university, 1 year internship, and 1 year abroad. Installing that program into the university.
I think it would just be hard for everyone to be able to do it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
For everyone in a university to be able to get an internship, getting those internships are kind of what distinguishes someone from someone else when you're actually getting a job.
Yeah.
So I feel when you're getting an internship, I feel like that's going to be hard for all these businesses and employers to weed out the people who are really more qualified than others in the long run. And with the year abroad, I think that studying abroad is a really good opportunity, but I don't think it's for everyone. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's some positives though. It opens you up to a bunch of different opportunities, and you get to see the workplace and
But
different countries.
again, if we start there's 40,000 kids at Penn State, right?
Yeah.
And
I
a
don't
lot
know
of
how
them
we get
must
40,000 kids in
that'd be
internship
difficult,
and studying abroad.
a lot of these kids must have never been out of the country. to begin with. So we
Yeah.
can't make it mandatory.
Yeah.
Because that's 20,000
Students
kids
to leave.
just from our university in one. Okay, well, 10,000 if we just split it up in 4 years. 10,000 in a different country, 10,000 at an internship every year. So
I think that maybe it'd be a nice program option
yeah,
for some universities for people who want to do that and try to get like their tuition costs down. But I don't think it's like a long-term solution.
okay,
You know what I'm saying?
all right, yeah.
And I know that like some majors, like I was looking at actuarial science for a while, and when I came here to like spend a summer day or something along those lines, they said like it's really hard to do that major and to study abroad because like internships are really important, so you can't lose your summer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like there's too many courses that they want you to take here.
Mm-hmm.
And like, so, I mean, I don't know how much you know about that, but like you have to
Yeah.
take
No,
tests.
yeah, I get
and
that.
so like, I guess that's one thing that Penn State was always like, you have to do it our way.
Yeah.
So I don't, like you guys were saying, I don't think it could be like adapted across the board.
Okay. Is there anybody we can do a quick time check?
35, 36.
Okay. So converting general education classes to online.
I really like this one.
I like that one too.
I do as well.
I feel like that's a very simple, okay, well not simple, but more simple than some of the other solutions.
It could have one negative impact on the people employed by the universities.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
That's true.
Um,
I know that some courses here, I think for example one was Spanish, like 1 or 2 days you go to the classroom and then the other 2 days are online.
mhm.
Yeah.
So that could almost be a part of that. Or I have I know that a lot of professors put their lectures online, like their entire lectures. And
My Spanish 3 class this fall is
Mhm.
an online course.
Mhm.
So like I'm actually like it's an online course. Like I'm not going to a classroom.
At all.
I might be taking it in the classroom just like, but it's an online course. I know
Mhm.
that. Yeah. So I don't know.
Yeah. I know a lot of people do their Spanish online. But yeah, I mean, converting like assuming that that's correct, that converting just 20% of general ed classes to online saves $90 billion.
Yeah.
Like that's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot of money. I think some people might think that like, you know, like not everyone has the technology to be able to do that. But I think at a lot of these universities that's not really a problem.
Yeah.
The
Mhm.
students have the technology.
Yeah,
like,
like
Yeah.
a lot of students, especially if you're coming here,
You need to have the
tuition's high already.
technology. Well,
so
coming
you might as
in-
well spend the money to actually spend what, like you don't have to buy a Mac, but you spend $800 on a laptop, save $15,000 in tuition.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of a trade-off that would be acceptable to most people.
You are right though about the
Employers,
professors. I mean, that wouldn't hurt the administrators.
yeah, and the
or
administrators
universities themselves,
are the ones who
but-
are really like inflated in their wages. So I think it would be like very, very unfair towards the professors because they've already not really gotten their share of like tuition inflation.
Yeah.
So it would be kind of like
But we
piggybacking.
could try and incorporate something where, but would that drop the price of the class then if it's half in a classroom, half online? Like would that?
I'm not really sure how like
Yeah.
what the breakdown is of price, but I think
Yeah.
I think that maybe like if you do it gradually and slowly enough, moving courses online, that I think that would be a really good option. But the only problem is the people who are employed. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm trying to think of how
We could fix that problem.
we could not hurt the professors by making classes online, because if they do like the online lecture type thing, I mean, they'd only have to film it once.
Yeah.
And I mean, honestly, that's not fair to them. And I'm someone who prefers to be in a class
Same.
Yeah.
versus
Yeah.
online.
Yeah.
But like some gen eds that maybe aren't super major specific,
Mhm.
you know,
Like I would personally, if I was gonna save like thousands, I would, even though I do prefer visual class learning too, like hands-on stuff, I would rather save the money and take the online classes.
Same.
And I feel like there's some people
Yeah.
who that would really benefit,
Yeah.
who wouldn't even second think that.
I wonder if it could be almost like a system. Like, for example, CAS is something that, like, a lot of us are supposed to take, but it's not, like, I don't know how to say it. It's not, like, the direction of our major.
Yeah.
So, like, I would
It's
be
something
willing
that
to
would help
take
in our
it.
major, but it's not
Yeah.
like, mandatory for our major.
Like, classes like
Yeah.
that, I'd be willing to take online versus something biochem that really affects my major.
Yeah.
So I wonder if for the people who are in the communication, major, if they wanted to, like, you could just leave it an option, but then I'm still worried if professors are still, like, teaching the classes, the cost won't go down as much. But I wonder if there'd be a way to just have them teach less.
And there's like a worry because there are some classes that need to be like taught in a classroom setting, like CAS.
Yeah, because you do need like to give the speeches.
We have to be in this group. Like we
Yeah.
couldn't do this on a group
Online.
chat or something.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Do we
maybe we don't have to do it on all classes. Like CAS is a pretty specific class, so
Yeah.
I mean and obviously, I mean the name of our book is Working in Groups. So
Yeah,
Isn't
So, like, we
Psych a
would-
gen ed?
what was that?
Is Psych a gen ed?
I don't know.
Yeah, I think.
Like the intro level to
Yeah, I think
Yeah, like I could take that online.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not that I've taken it yet, and I would specifically know, but I don't think you're going
Like
to
is
be
our
speeches
like
and stuff.
first year seminar thing for Penn State, like are you guys taking that in the fall? It's like
No,
a
you
one
don't
credit.
have to.
I know, but I am okay. It's like that one credit course, and I'm taking it. Like I don't know, but am I gonna have to go to a classroom for that? Like that just seems
So.
like that just seems
Yeah.
stupid to me. Like,
Something
Yeah,
like that.
stuff like that
yeah,
you would
like
put
what is
online,
that?
yeah.
Like my one credit course that I'm gonna have to go to like twice a week.
Yeah.
And that's true.
I actually think it's once a week, but like
Because those people that are teaching those classes, obviously they're not just teaching like those little one
Yeah.
minute classes,
Yeah.
so it's not like their
you're
salary
not losing your job.
would
Yeah.
be destroyed
Yeah.
because they're putting stuff like an intro class
Yeah.
online.
It could also be beneficial then because it would allow the professor to focus more on their like specific field. Like, like say if Ben was teaching like another class that could be done online, and they switched to an online version of the class, he would have so much more time to spend with us, like
Of course.
to focus on like the more specific classroom mandatory
Yeah.
type classes.
Like the giving of the speeches and the group work.
Yeah. All right. I think we should move on to the next one.
Okay.
I think we
So-
should keep that one
Keep that
for
one.
now.
Definitely keep that one. Expert. I think this is a really good option too.
Yeah.
Out of the ones that we've had, I think it's a good way.
Because
cut
it's been tested
expenses.
in different fields
Yeah.
too. Like
Mm-hmm.
it works.
I feel like this is such a big issue that I feel like the smaller ones like that are a good way to begin to like tackle it. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
just like, maybe just as like a first line of, I'm gonna say defense, but it's not really defense, but like a first line of defense, just bring someone in, cut those small costs like Meredith was saying about those stupid additional costs that everyone is
The fees.
yeah, those
Yeah.
stupid fees, like just get those out of the way, cut down some costs, maybe just that sort of thing that would help a university a lot and help students save on their tuition.
But do the universities were implementing that fees to get money,
Yeah.
so it wouldn't help the per se, like it would help the students,
Mm-hmm.
but the universities probably wouldn't be like super happy about that.
But-
Am I wrong?
Well, my point was like if the expert comes in and says, only 1% of the student population is utilizing this program,
Okay.
is it something that they can cut? Or is it something, maybe not cut, but maybe they can combine it with something similar? Because, there's a lot of similar
Yeah.
programs
Yeah.
that they could make it like one slightly larger thing that costs less than a bunch of small separate
I'm
things.
sorry, you made me laugh, but I get what you're saying. I understand. Yes. Okay. Yeah. No, I do think that's a good idea. And I mean, if students and families know that the universities are working with them to help try and decrease tuition by like bringing in people like that, like experts, and I think that would also be like I don't know.
Yeah, I'm just curious as to see whether like how much the university is really willing to cut, because that person can
Yeah.
come in and say like, I think you should cut this, I think you should get rid of this. like you don't need this.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like
It's
if
the
they want to
university's
keep it, they
decision.
can.
Yeah, they will.
It's not like
Going off, going
yeah.
off that, like you can use that as an incentive.
Yeah.
So like all of these colleges and universities, they want stuff like put on their like brochure that they mail to the students. So
Uh-huh.
like if you have somebody come in and say like you should cut these programs and it would save you this much, that would be that would be an incentive for the university to actually go through with it and say that we're saving students on average X amount annual tuition by cutting inefficiencies.
Yeah. An idea I just had is that you could actually get a group of students together, obviously through not just like a random group of students. Like you could like interview people and like have people apply for this to be part of the committee that helps decide after the expert comes through what they should cut or not.
Oh, so like
Because-
maybe do some like research studies. Like the expert comes in, and it's like these are things that are like students aren't really utilizing, and you can cut those, and then
And then the expert like lays that out. Then the students and the university come together.
oh okay.
So that way it's kind of like give and take for
Yeah.
all ends of it.
Yeah, so I definitely think this is like I think we should keep this one. Just
Okay.
I think
maybe like a maybe.
that can be combined into
Yeah.
other ones.
Yeah.
I think.
So I think maybe I think it's a good idea. So I don't think we should cut it. Do you know what I'm saying?
No,
Yeah,
yeah,
I agree.
I think we should like a maybe almost.
Um,
Like the two other ones are like drastic things that would really cut costs.
Yeah. Okay. Employers give scholarships to older students. That's kind of hard because that's something a little bit out of our control. I
Yeah.
feel
Plus,
like.
I think it's like kind of already happening,
Yeah.
but
I mean, like we could encourage them to give more money to the
Yeah.
students, but at the end of the day, that's not our decision.
yeah, I guess that's true.
And I know, like, for example, last summer my brother had an internship like at a smaller design firm, and I don't know if they'd have the money to send him along with the 2 or 3 other interns.
Yeah.
Oh, here's $10,000. Like, I don't think that would be.
Yeah. So it's kind of biased towards bigger companies. Then.
Yeah.
And more privileged students.
Yeah.
Like the really good students are the ones who are getting the scholarships.
That's true.
So-
Yeah.
And also with that, I just lost my train of thought.
It only helps a small percentage of students.
Yeah.
So
That's
maybe
true.
And also, like, if the employers see that the university, like, that the kids actually aren't coming to them, even
Mhm.
though they keep giving them this money,
yeah, I
they
see what
might
you're
just
saying. Yeah.
stop. So, do you guys want to cut that one?
Yeah, we can
Yeah.
Okay.
cross that one out.
And then our last one is releasing universities from state government operating requirements.
Or 47.
Okay.
So, we'll just go with this one.
Alright.
I mean, I don't.
I don't know a lot about it, to be
Me
honest.
either.
The same, and I feel
It sounds
like.
a lot of like paperwork and
Yeah.
red tape and
Yeah.
a bunch of stuff that a sticky situation that wouldn't get resolved for another 20 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like as much as we don't like restrictions and regulations, like some of that is necessary. Like
Yeah.
for me, I thought of like the food. If there's not like government
Yeah, like
regulations
FDA.
on what they can
Yeah.
feed us,
Yeah.
like they'd be going with the cheap, who knows what.
Yeah.
And obviously that's not good, and no one wants to eat cat over chicken.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I would just be. I mean, I'm sure there's some that could get laid
Yeah.
off that aren't as like important, like what you're putting in your body.
Yeah.
But
I think there's so much that entails.
yeah,
You guys want to next that one?
Yeah, we can
Yeah.
just ask that one.
There's too much
Okay.
work for the government to do,
Yeah,
and
it's
not
just
really.
too much stuff.
Yeah.
It's,
Personally, looking at the 3 options we have, I feel like one of those 2 would be better than doing nothing.
yeah, I think those 2 are too good of options to just do nothing about
Yeah.
it. So
Okay.
you can cross do nothing out.
Okay.
I agree.
Yeah.
So, X this one.
Yeah.
So what we have right now is convert general education classes to online or some general education classes to
Yeah.
online, or experts come in to cut inefficient expenses and programs.
My ideal thing, like based off what we've talked about, would be to do a combination of both. Like
Yeah.
maybe the expert comes in. It doesn't have to be one expert. Like it could be a panel, and like one is really good at looking at the food service, and one is really good at looking at housing, and one's good at looking at the education aspect, and maybe
They can
together
decide what classes we can transfer
Exactly.
to online.
Exactly.
Okay.
So like kind of, that's good. So we can kind of encompass both there.
Okay. I'm okay
And then
with
are we still saying like to help with the biasness of what the universities do and do not want to cut, we can bring in a panel of students as
Yeah.
well?
I think that'd be a good idea. Yeah.
Okay.
So our final solution would be bring in experts to cut, bring in specific experts for specific things like food, housing, and then those classes that we want to convert to online. And then after they've identified those classes and other programs that we can cut, bring in the university and a student panel together to decide what's necessary and what can go.
Sounds good.
All right.
I agree.
Should we write final solution?
Sure.
All right, let's do it.
Good luck writing all that.
Yeah. I'll summarize. So final solution.
Yeah. So you can see the notes.
Alex, get in this. It's a team effort here. I'm going the wrong way.
We should be the student panel.
We should be the student panel.
Sure.
It was our idea.
We have a wide variety of backgrounds and interests.
It is so wide. And we have all different types as well.
It's gonna be hard to write all that, Aubrey.
No, I'm just gonna summarize real quick. So student panel
Just to cut.
and university decide.
Alrighty.
All right.
There we go.
Good job,
Okay.
guys.
There's the solution. Click the stop.
Yep.
Good.